And speaking of Miguna, he returns to Kenya today. The self-declared National Resistance Movement General, the lawyer Miguna, could again be headed for a confrontation with the Immigration Department when he jets back later this afternoon. This is after the department maintained it will not issue him with a new passport unless he applies to regain his Kenyan citizenship. Miguna last week announced that he will return to the country from Canada today. Immigration boss Gordon Kihalangwa last week told the KNCHR that Miguna will be given a passport only if he applies afresh for Kenyan citizenship, an assertion that has been challenged by the KNCHR and Miguna's lawyers.
Open the door! Open the door! The powerful man in the world!
Yes, the return of Miguna. That could happen later this afternoon. Should we anticipate that? Do you think he'll be allowed to gain entry into Kenya?
Kihalangwa has already said that this gentleman has to apply afresh. Remember, that was the very bone of contention why he was deported. And so if that is what Gordon Kihalangwa is saying, what else do you expect? The last time I checked with the Miguna saga, the government was relentless. So going by what happened, we doubt that he'll be allowed in unless he applies afresh. So we expect again there'll be a confrontation, except that this time the confrontation may lack the drama and the vigor that it had last time, because now the handshake is in town, and those who are backing Miguna and those for whom he was the general have now joined the Jubilee government, and they are working together to bring the country together. So we do not expect the drama and vigor that we witnessed last time. But whether he'll be allowed in or not, going by what Gordon has said, he has to apply afresh. Remember that even as Gordon speaks like that, he is speaking in total contempt and disregard of the various court rulings that are in place. So again, we talk about NYS, but we talk again a government that will hear nothing about what the court has ruled if it is against the interests of some of his people. Yet at the same time, we berate the same judiciary for not convicting. Isn't our goose cooked as Kenyans?
Okay. Duncan Okach, of course, we saw last time that Miguna arrived, the presence of Raila Odinga at the airport. We saw quite a number of lawyers, mainly aligned to that side of the political divide. Lawyers Nelson Harvey, James Orengo. This time around, Raila Odinga is away, is in the UK for a few days, so he won't be around. Do you think we'll see the same barrage of lawyers, the same group waiting for Miguna at the airport, given what Bwana Lutalala says, that the handshake is in town?
The handshake is in town, and that is a reality on the ground. But at the end of the day, we should know that it's not everyone who is happy with that handshake, and there are also people within the same government who will actually welcome Miguna anytime this time round, and will actually want him to be in town. So it's, and they are still holding power in this country. So it's still power versus power. That's why I still say anything is expected. You may actually be so surprised that an order can actually come and you find Miguna finding his way like a bride into the country without any issues. But like that my friend says,
that would shock him perhaps even more than it shocks Kenyans.
That may not even shock him, because he made a decision to come. You don't know what informed that particular decision. You don't know who he had spoken to. So that's why he's not a fool to just say, I'm coming. But more importantly, because my learned senior said we should be good students of history, and history may repeat itself, but it's not an assurity that it must always repeat itself. We are expecting that the usual resistance will still happen. But as this is happening, remember, the moment Miguna was deported, he actually accused Raila Odinga of actually being also at the center stage of his prevention from accessing the country. Nothing will have changed whether Raila Odinga was in the country or not, because it already means that they have already drawn the red lines, and they are very clear, such that you are seeing, and I saw it on the press, that my good friend, learned colleague Nelson Harvey, has already withdrawn from the legal team representing Miguna.
Okay. And
I've not seen people like Senior Counsel Haminwa talking about this matter. The people at the center stage are the Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights and maybe Cliff Ombeta. There may be other advocates who may be instructed. We all act under instructions. People may actually go there because there's no shortage of advocates. Neither is it that there are some few clique of advocates who can only deal with such matters. So there is no shortage. Advocates may actually be there. But this is not a court of law. Advocates practice in a court of law. So when you go there, Cliff Ombeta will tell you what he went through. You may not want to go through it again. And most of your colleagues too, I pity. I know the people will not be in a hurry to go to the airport.
Stephen Leto was one of those journalists assaulted during that incident. Incidentally, he's the same one reporting on the same arrival on Miguna today, and so Stephen Leto will be filing a report later. Unfortunately, the flight is much later in the afternoon. We cannot get a report from him right now, but he is on that story. Given the kind of experience Miguna had, spending nights in a toilet at the airport, being taken to back to Dubai, where he spent more nights there.
Sedated.
Well, he claims he was sedated. But why do you think he would still come back the same way? Because, well, nothing has changed. He still doesn't have his Kenyan passport with him.
I think Miguna is actually the last man standing in the now defunct NASA and the NRM. So
he's the only opposition.
He's the only opposition man that is really standing, because the rest, after the handshake, things changed, and so NASA, as it was, ceased to exist, because now partners, others detached themselves, others felt betrayed. And the main principal felt like, okay, we need to have other national priorities. But it's only Miguna who has remained steadfast in terms of pushing for his NRM agenda, which again puts him in a difficult situation, because the Interior Minister, CS, had already outlawed the NRM. So this complicates things for him. And he comes as maybe a general without an army. So he'll come in and he may have actually to fight a one-man war, which may not really be very good to him, because through the immigration department, you've had what the government has given his position. Of course, the KHCR has also tried to make the process easy for him. But we know that the way I see it, it may not be easy. The motivation that he has is actually individual and for self-preservation, because he feels that the ideals they were fighting for that time have not been achieved. So him returning back is actually showing that he's not surrendered, but he comes at a time when things are very bad, and he'll actually be he's actually a victim of changing political times.
Final words, but do you think that being opposed to that handshake probably gives him some relevance, that if at all he was with the program, then we would not even be talking about Miguna right now?
It does, except in Demoli that anyone who thrives around Raila also gets destroyed once Raila decides so. He makes and breaks. Sad story about people who come around Raila. The following that Miguna had was not a following he generated as Miguna. It's a following he generated because he was fighting the cause Baba was fighting. And if you remember what he has said a couple of times on Twitter lately, he has actually accused Raila for betraying the cause. Now, I am also aware outside here that he claims to be the de facto leader of NRM, but all the insiders in ODM do not want him near them, or even near Raila Odinga. Therefore, whereas outside there he resonates as the only last standing man, and I agree with him, except that they are Honorable Mudavadi, Wetangula and Kalonzo have said they remain the opposition. So NASA is not dead. According to them, it's not dead. We will see a different scenario playing out here, because unfortunately, there is an element of dictatorship in the opposition around Raila, in the sense that once he has said this is the way to go, anybody around him who says a different thing will end up being sidelined. And in fact, don't be surprised eventually if the kind of thing that happened to Miguna sometimes back in Mombasa, where goons started pursuing him, will happen. Because Raila has said, let us go the handshake.
So no one wants to touch Miguna now.
Yes, his diehard supporters don't know what is in the handshake. What is important is that Baba has said, and therefore they'll all go there. If Miguna seems to be pursuing a vexatious or relentless pursuit to say, you have betrayed us, he'll be sidelined. And therefore, he may actually, what Charles is saying, a general without soldiers. But it is true that what Miguna says resonates with the bulk of the NASA supporters there. There are many people out there who feel that the handshake does not portend good for them, that the handshake was not consultative, and therefore there are many people out there who will listen to Miguna and follow Miguna. But whether that can fall through the same way it did, that is another story.
Is he as relevant as he was when he was deported last time, today?
As I answer that, kindly let me just touch on what Senior has already indicated, which I totally disagree with. You cannot say that anyone who comes around Raila is actually destroyed. Neither can you say that you can fault Raila, because if he takes a position and someone takes a different position, he is actually attacked, for lack of a better word. What happens? That is what is expected worldwide as a leader. Even in your own house, you make a decision, this is how I want us to go. If someone is not following, you'll have to focus on him. What has happened to the people from Rift Valley who are not supporting Ruto? What has happened to them? Are they being supported? Are people clapping for them? Are they heroes? What has happened to people like Ngunjiri, who is actually going against what people are thinking is the common grain in Central? Is he being supported? What happened to Akina Kabogo, who went against the grain? It is actually expected, such that you cannot say that anyone who comes near Raila is destroyed. In actual sense, the opposite is true. Ruto was actually created and became the person who he was because he was near Raila. And many other people have actually gained that. And let me finish, such that you cannot just come and give it as a general procedure. However, to your question, the fact that Miguna is coming back, it may not have the oomph that it had the first time he was coming, because the first time he was coming, people didn't know what will play out. People actually believed Raila Odinga wanted him in and everyone wanted him back, so that they thought there will be a fight between these bigger principles, the president, the ruling party and the opposition. But now that they are together, they are together based on the handshake, and it seems like now Miguna is actually fighting his own battle. It may not be at the scale that it was at that particular
Much
time.
subdued this time
Allow me
around.
to correct.
Yes, and then we'll give a chance.
Sorry, I think learned colleague seems to have gotten me wrong. What I said is that anybody who comes around Raila and grows by virtue of supporting Raila and then turns against the grain is destroyed. And that is actually what he has emphasized by comparing with Central, that whoever goes against what the leader says is destroyed, and other tribes. Indeed, ask James Orengo, ask Professor Nyang' Nyong'o, when they felt that they had grown so much that they could actually campaign against Raila, they went into the cold. And it took going back to Raila that they have been rejuvenated. So it is true that the politics of this country, whether opposition or government, it's about tribal chiefdoms. So anybody who goes against Raila, even in this handshake, go to Nyanza. Although I know that underground there are many people who are happy, they're asking, what is it? They will never dare go against me in public. So he just reinforces what I've said, that if you go against Raila in public over what you have together agreed before, then that marks your end.
Charles, you'll have the final words. You have the final word on this matter. Miguna's return.
Yeah, I think Miguna returns to a country where he comes, he's a self-styled general, but there is no war, there is no army, and things have changed. The real general in that war ordered a ceasefire, and things are different. So the war that he's fighting is about himself. It has nothing to do, because even the resist movement was officially called off by Raila Odinga. So the fact of the matter is that Miguna will come and find himself irrelevant within a very short time, because he will not be able to make the subject of any national conversation, because the ideas and the issues that he was pushing are really have been abandoned. And as Dr. Alutalola rightly put it, the irony or maybe the tragedy of our politics sometimes is that it rotates around the individual. The moment Raila Odinga was appeased, then the whole country was at peace. Therefore, the unfortunate thing for Miguna is that even if he's allowed entry, the only time he may make news is today. But tomorrow, where does he go? What does he do? Which army or who shall follow behind him?
Wow.
That is the unfortunate thing about it.
Goons may be even after him.
Interesting.